paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. If I offend you, because sorry, oh baby, take out, oh. Sorry, oh baby, take out, oh. I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you, oh baby. Nothing of it to change, amo. Nothing of it to change, amo. If I talk, then go say I dey talk. Yeah. Tell me why then they use Panadol for our headache. Yeah. How I go chop if my baby no chop? They want to spoil our market. Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, Prada fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. If I offend you, because sorry, oh baby, take out, oh. Sorry, oh baby, take out, oh. I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you, oh baby. Nothing of it to change, amo. Nothing of it to change, amo. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, Prada fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. Kida me now. Your girlfriend person.
Mix mouse up.
JP's a production.
Hey, hey, hey. It's okay. Hey, hey. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body. Them girls just they feel me now, cause I get some money, then they feel me now. Back then they do me anyhow. I don't get some money, they wanna get down. They won't hold me for ransom, cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. They wanna know where I come from. I they run since from Lagos to London. All the blessings and love I they see just they make me they shout hallelujah. I say all the blessings and love I they see just they make me they shout hallelujah. They hold me for ransom, cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. They won't hold me for ransom, cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body. Coupe de calema, sagacité, équilibré, farotema, décalé, décalé, cricata, 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 pam pam. Somunto, calopere, calopere, calopere. All the blessings and love I they see just they make me they shout hallelujah. I say all the blessings and love I they see just they make me they shout hallelujah. They hold me for ransom, cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. They won't hold me for ransom, cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body. Now designer wear now. I be take all the girls on a wear now. I'm the man of the year now. Now my music they blow everywhere now. All the way from KD, the whole world now just to hear me. My haters just to fear me, and nobody feed double dare me. All the blessings and love I they see just they make me they shout shout hallelujah, eh. I say all the blessings and love they see just they make me they shout hallelujah, eh. They hold me for ransom cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. They won't hold me for ransom cause I'm young and I'm rich and I'm handsome. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body. Coupe, décalema. Cricata, parote. Équilibré, équilibré. Parote. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body.
Now I'm giving my testimony. I'm killing the beat and I'm giving them heat. Now I'm giving them everything. I'm living my life, I don't chop money. I don't taste money. My guy, I'm allergic to poverty. So I'm using my sense to gather the properties. No time, like a statue of liberty. Nobody knows tomorrow, so I'll be holding my destiny, yeah. As if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, as if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, yeah. Now I'm giving my testimony, I'm killing the beat and I'm giving them heat, now I'm giving them everything, I'm living my life, I don't chop money, I don't taste money. Now my testimony, my testimony. I don't chop, I don't taste money. I don't taste money. Now my testimony, my testimony. I don't chop, I don't taste money. I don't taste money. Je m'appelle Chop Money. It's good to be saving for rainy days. Cause you know easy, yeah. Life is so delicate, so make una see me as evidence. Baba God, now my confidence. Yes. His blessings are endless, so as if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, as if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, now I'm giving my testimony, I'm killing the beat and I'm giving them heat, now I'm giving them everything, I'm living my life, I don't chop money, I don't taste money, now my testimony, my testimony, I don't chop, I don't taste money, I don't taste money, now my testimony, my testimony, I don't chop, I don't taste money, I don't taste money. Testing 1, 2, 3. Ok. Je m'appelle Chop Money. As if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, as if it's in a jungle, some people they bubble, I continue the struggle, they double my hustle, now I'm giving my testimony, I'm killing the beat and I'm giving them heat, now I'm giving them everything, I'm living my life, I don't chop money, I don't taste money, now I'm giving my testimony, I'm killing the beats, I'm giving them it, now I'm giving them everything, I'm living my life, I don't chop money, I don't taste money, now my testimony, my testimony, I don't chop, I don't taste money, I don't taste money, now my testimony, my testimony, I don't chop, I don't taste money, I don't taste money, now
testimony, testimony, my testimony. I don't chop, I don't testimony. I don't testimony. Yeah, my testimony, testimony, my testimony. I don't chop, I don't testimony. I don't testimony.
Make it dance. See how they find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way they do me. Yeah, dance. See how they find you truly. Yeah. She tell me say that me go be a mentor. I tell her say I been a bitch youngko. Whoa, baby mentor. And the things you they do with yourself, you they bust my mind. Mentor. I'ma get some be mal and not get it. Till the money, I'ma take a sorrow. I did love how you move to the bass like whoa. Dance. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. See how they find you truly. Yeah, give me 91. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. See how they find you truly. Yeah. Girl, when you rotate, so many things where they cross my mind. Where they make me want to chase up on you, say my girl all night. Girl, when you rotate, you girl, I know come to dim your light. I know come to do you shy with you one time. Girl, if not my day for you, save my grace, so am I a grace for you. I want to say I hold on to you. For you, it's true. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah. Oh, bad girl, make you tell me. Oh, calm down, make you ease my stress. Oh, say me get girl from yard where they cool my mind, where they kill my stress. Say me get girl from log where they cool my mind, where they kill my stress. Oh, she got the finest one, she they cool my mind, she they kill my stress. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. I'ma make it dance. Say I did find you truly. Yeah, give me mighty wine. You get the way you did do me. Yeah, dance. See how they find you truly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, nah. Yeah. You see, I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You come for me when you're lonely. I'm just tryna be your one and only. I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You come for me when you're lonely. I'm just tryna be your one and only. Yeah. I'm liking your ways, liking your ways, liking your. I'm liking your ways, liking your ways. Say whining girl, come confide in me, girl. You make it stamina, you can time me, girl. And you're so fine when you twirl. Yeah. Just let me know if you want for me to stay. I know they play. You're not by the way, I can't concentrate without you. Girl, you're so black, good, you know. Don't
take bad man for a fool, you know. Don't make me have to teach you like school, you know. And I'ma give you that good wood, you know. You see, I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You can phone me when you're lonely. I'm just trying to be your one and only. I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You can phone me when you're lonely. I'm just trying to be your one and only. Yeah. I'm liking ya, I'm liking your ways, liking ya, liking your ways, liking ya. I'm liking your ways, liking ya.
I'm liking the way that you back it up on me. Baby, come with me, no go down me. Baby, call me when you're lonely. Oh, say I'm liking your body, girl, put it all on me. You go bound to if you know down me. I go give you all my money. Yeah, say we go ride in my Benzema. We go fly from London to Argentina. Confide in me, my Angelina. I go give you my shoulder, so cry, you know. Say my sweet, sweet Angelina. Say your body, they ginger me now. Say the one where I like never leave, you know. Stay true, stay cool when I dare, you know.
You see, I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You can phone me when you're lonely. I'm just trying to be your one and only. I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You can phone me when you're lonely. I'm just trying to be your one and only. Yeah. I'm liking ya, I'm liking your ways, liking ya, liking your ways, liking ya. I'm liking your ways, liking ya. Say island girl, give me one of them. Brown skin girl, give me one of them. Caucasian girl, give me one of them. Asian girl, me I like one of them. Stop.
Another banger. Make a pom, make a pom, 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 make a pom, make a keep a tick, pom, pom, pom. Your body kakara, make a pom, 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 on a magnetic. Kilo fe, I'm a dead chocolate. Fine, fine, oh, kakade. Watch your love for like it. Why not more dead? Your body, chocolate. Push it in, yeah, in my day. Kabalo, see, kilo fe. Why now, my lady? Tell me what's in there, your body. I'm a damn easy, baby. Why you want to give me control? If you want to get already, I'ma make up my eye. I'ma need your candle. I go my eye. I'ma need your candle. Do maybe. I don't want to say so. Yeah, do maybe don't go carry belly. Do maybe. Let go on me see yeah. Come see baby. Make a pom.
Hey, my dear, I'm back. I'm so sorry. That was my boss. Can you hear me?
Fine girl. Make you nobody do fine boy like this. So if I hear say want I go vex.
Hello?
Okini nafia, okini baby, okini
Hello?
plenty money, okini nafia,
Hello?
okini baby, okini.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, you are. I apologize. I hope you saw my text. It was my boss, and that's who had called earlier. So I just returned the call thinking that it was something quick, and I told him I was on something, but here we are. I apologize.
You're welcome. They just got some tunes for the wait.
How many people have shown up?
Let me see.
Let me try and log in too. I learned this.
Oops. Oh, we have 6 loyal people who waited. So let's see. Oh, great. And Nicole saying she can hear.
How many people?
We have 6 people, so we can get started.
Okay, let's get started.
Yeah, so I know we had talked about like how to start this off, and you wanted to honor what the loss that so many of us experienced recently. But before we start there, I hear some music in it. Oh, that must be you.
I just turned it off.
So I am Jessica, or Dr. Isom, and I'm here with Dr. Opara, also known as Ijeoma. I don't know what your preference is for this, but I actually I would much rather prefer to go by Jessica, just to take off some of those hats. But this is I think it's our third episode. We're just having a brief conversation earlier around what to do with this moving forward, including floating the idea of doing a podcast, although both me and Dr. Opara wear like 50 million hats. So if we would coordinate,
if there's someone in community that's like, this is what I do, I help sisters set up their podcast. Y'all don't have to think about nothing but show up and show out. Then Dr. Isom, are we open to that?
I'm open to just showing up with some coffee and just making it. But coordinating, no, I'm still trying to figure out how to coordinate my life as it is right now.
I know, right? Jeez, like I spent like all morning just hooking up Calendly. I was like, I need to get on this Calendly game. You know, all these organized sisters I reach out to or whatnot. They're like, no worries, honey, this is my link. I'm like, your link? I said, let me get on this, get my life organized.
It's funny, I actually have a Calendly link and I started using it, but then I realized I over committed to a bandwidth that I did not have. So I was, oh, I have an open slot here and an open slot here, but could I really do it? No. So I stopped using it. And I have to figure out like what's a realistic bandwidth for these, apparently open slots. Full disclosure for those people who wanted to meet, I would have to shift things around just based on bandwidth. So it's productive, but it might have you opening up slots that you really don't actually have. So thank you for that's good wisdom. I need to go back. I'm doing it a month at a time. So I just did January this morning, but it is so I have 2 research days, Mondays and Fridays. So I'm using that time, to say, okay, I can meet during these, like, that's the way I'm sort of, but I think there's probably still some room for me to work out a better system. So thanks for that forewarning, because I am likely to go ahead and overcommit. Right. And then you have like 3 meetings on a day where you have like 10 other things to do, and it's like, oh my God. Oh yeah, Karis is saying they do podcasts show on yeah, we'll have to get some tips from you. Like, how do you manage that? How do you do that?
Yes, Karis. Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk.
So we, as far as our topic today, it's the end of the year. It's been a year almost, I think, since the piece was written. It's not been a year since we've been engaged in this kind of work, but we did want to start off by letting you know that today we'd be discussing boundary setting and some lessons learned. So lessons learned is more retro, and then looking ahead, we're going to talk about boundary setting and what that could look like for 2022. We have some ideas. We also welcome some ideas for y'all, but it's definitely something that's at the forefront of my mind because I'm ending this year just wanting to perpetually nap, as I was telling you earlier. I just for a very long time just to recover, which suggests that there was not enough boundary setting for the year.
No, wasn't.
But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you to read something that you wrote that's really special, and we'll start with it.
Yes, y'all. So as you know, Auntie Bell Hooks passed away recently, crossed over, still with us in spirit, but her body crossed over recently. And so for those who follow us on Twitter, I'm sure you have seen this, where my other hat, I don't know if it's a hat, it's just the other ventricle of my heart is in the arts, and particularly in performing arts. So writing, but poetry is big for me. And then I faux sing. I say faux sing because, I think it's an insult to real singers to say I sing. But I faux sing, honey. I could put a tune together. It might get your dog singing along, but it's all right with that. And so I wrote a little poem to honor her, and then just kind of use the poem after I'll sort of recite the poem for you all, and then use it and segue into some quotes that I think speak to the lessons learned and the sort of, what am I giving up? What am I claiming, in this new year? So let's start with the poem, and it's called Black Woman Talk Your Talk. Black women, talk your talk, sing your song, pray your offerings. The world needs our voice just as it is, authentic, strong, weak, loud, quiet, melodic, academic, poetic, rap, lyrical, rhythmic, sign, real. Our unapologetic voice, questioning, critical, corrective, healing us. Black women, talk your talk, sing your song, pray your offerings. The world needs our voice, just as it is. It is more than enough to create new ways of being, new ideas, concepts, frameworks, understandings, imaginings, solutions, the future. Black women, talk your talk, walk your walk, sing your song, pray your offerings. The world needs our voice. We need our voice. I need our voice. You are cream and crop, the moment and the look, the bell and the hook. You are, we are, I am. So I will just pause there for any thoughts, and then so we can talk about the quotes and use that to sort of intro our commentary.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like that's a nice, I talk to people often about doing affirmations in the morning as you wake up to get you started for the day, to kind of send to yourself. And I can imagine that point would be really helpful for so many moments where it's like disorientation central. Like, who am I? What do I do? What am I offering? Should I be offering what I'm offering? What meaning does it have? What value does it have, et cetera? So thank you for sharing that with us. It's really powerful and we need it, right? As we'll talk about, because there's a lot of gaslighting and invalidation that's happening around what we do have to offer. And it takes a lot to say that it's still valuable, to kind of recenter yourself and refocus yourself on what it truly what true meaning it has for others, for yourself, for the world. So
that's right. I mean, yeah, and that is that sense that really prompted is the understanding that I feel that bell hooks stood for, that authenticity, that just being in our Blackness, all our Blackness, the pretty and the not so pretty, the eloquent and the hood, the ratchet and the bougie, all of it, right? Like owning every single aspect of our Blackness and showing up in that unapologetically. And so she really taught me to really just appreciate my voice in the ways that it is, appreciate myself in the ways I am, to stand in that through authenticity and know that it is beyond valuable. It's beyond valuable. And it is beyond valuable because the gaslighting is real. It is real, 100% what you said. And so that really speaks to like these quotes. So if you permit me, there are 3 quotes I wanted to lift up. And I think they literally speak to what we're talking about and, inform the rest of the commentary. And just want to encourage the folks listening, go ahead and, put in the chat there, what is coming up for you as well. And so I'll start with this one. Dominator culture has tried to keep us all afraid, to make us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity. Moving through that fear, finding out what connects us, reveling in our differences. This is the process that brings us closer, that gives us a world of shared values, of meaningful community. So I believe that this nation can only heal from the wounds of racism if we all begin to love Blackness. And by that, I don't mean that we love only that which is best within ourselves, but that we're also able to love that which is faltering, which is wounded, which is contradictory, which is incomplete. And so in the year 2022, I will not have my life narrowed down. I will not bow down to somebody else's whim or to someone else's ignorance. And so I tied 3 quotes, in one, but I really love that because it truly does inform the boundary settings and the lessons learned, because the lesson was that I did that. I made myself seem small to make other people comfortable. I listened when people said that, what I was saying didn't make sense, or rather than understand it was their limitation and their smallness that was being projected. I believed them, or some of them, because they had credentials after their names or before, because they had a reputation that was said of them. And so I believed and listened. But in 2022, I recognized that means not a damn thing. And that, playing small, diminishing one's light serves no one. Literally no one. And so I will not, and I'll repeat this quote and then hush so you can, share. I will not have my life narrowed down. I will not bow down to someone else's whim or to someone else's ignorance. And I will ask someone else's smallness. And that's facts.
Yeah, I mean I want to underline the ignorance part, because so much of what we are navigating is others' ignorance, and like really like confident ignorance. Like it's just like ignorance from a place of superiority. It's like the worst kind, because it's not as workable versus someone, being at least seeing you as somewhat of an equal. Whereas there's some ignorance there. You sit in that space together and walk away knowing a bit more about what you're talking about. But yeah, the dominator culture, it's a great quote. And going into 2022, actually, what I will say is that I'm interested in figuring out not just how to, like, me and you be in the forefront, figuring out what to do about dominator culture, but really finding and investing in, like, pouring into others who are willing to challenge the dominator culture from a different position, one that's less vulnerable, one that's less risky in some ways, but just really figuring out how to do that. Because I feel, and this is something I had tweeted before, that most of 2021, not most of it, but good chunks of it, the worst parts of it have been around saying something, speaking up, challenging culture, and then not really seeing people around to stand with you. Because they are afraid for reasons that are reality-based, and then afraid for reasons that are more their imagination about what the repercussions might be, what could happen. It's often like catastrophic in nature, like the world's gonna like explode if I open my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but you see some and you see what the outcomes are from that. And we're still here. We probably have lost some things, but we've gained some things as well. So I really want to spend 2022 not just like interrogating silence, but like challenging silence, and calling for people to verbalize the things that they're thinking, and actually join in, not just leaving people out to be the person that's challenging dominator culture all on their own. Because we can't do that. Like that should be something we leave in 2021.
Agreed. And I think it comes from different perspectives. First of all, I want to honor the frustration, because I also experience the same. That fear frustrates me. Excuse me, that fear will just, I literally had a mentor. So I've been struggling with the white man in one of my groups, one of my committees, who sort of insinuated himself into this, JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion group, and has been a challenge, to put it lightly, despite my efforts to.
You could say a challenge. In what ways? A challenge in, nonverbals, a challenge in like takeover.
Take over, whiteness, a challenge in whiteness. So the takeover, the subtle, the avuncular, the nice white, the violent nice whiteness that is the taking up of space, the polite, liberal, kind whiteness that to me is more irritating than the hillbilly version. because those people are so much more recalcitrant because they're very invested in this idea that they're good. And so you have to overcome this construction of goodness and niceness. First of all, that they create to even get to the heart of the, like, you are you are weaponizing whiteness in this space. I need you to back off, essentially. And how do you do that as a Black woman? And how do you do that, in I mean, the levels, that's its own like conversation, and we'll come back to that, but I want to leverage that conversation to sort of name the ways in which to be honest, I lost my train of thought for a second, but I would say that the ways in which not minimizing myself, let me link it to what I was saying earlier, and not making myself feel small, not accommodating and coddling the whiteness. And that's speaking, and now I've caught up with my train. I knew I'll catch up on the train eventually, it's just got keep chewing, I'll keep walking and we'll catch up. But what you were saying about investing in people, and the fear of for a lot of people that we experience when it comes to challenging truth to power, understanding that response is a learned response. Like, how else is white supremacy going to perpetuate itself except to make people believe that, yeah, you can't step to me, and if you step to me, here are all the ways I can fuck up your life, and like, how else is it going to perpetuate itself? These people are a numerical minority. How else do you perpetuate power against people who are more than you, even numerically, right? Except to really wage an aggressive, like, take no prisoners psychological war to make them believe really that you have more power than you actually do, right? And you have examples of that. These are not, but how else, right? So sometimes now I have more compassion, where I was very frustrated in the past, where I would encounter people, and it's like, when you encourage them to challenge power structures, is they respond with fear. And it's like, assimilate, get with the program. When you get in, you can fight the power. I'm like, okay, it's 2021. I haven't seen it work. Y'all are still repeating the same tired lies. We haven't seen it work. Medicine and healthcare is still racist and toxic as F. People are still dying. Y'all are still being pushed out. And you're still repeating the same tired lies. You're straighten your hair, let act like this when you get in. And I'm just like, what? Like, again, okay. It's a psychosis. It doesn't have to make sense. Like, once I call it a psychosis, I know you're a psychiatrist, Dr. Isom, but I'm like, once I call it that, then I don't have to get so frustrated. I'm like, okay, this is a psychotic trauma response of the oppressed. That's my terminology for it, because it doesn't make sense. And I've decided maybe it doesn't have to. That's how white supremacy works. It is insane. And let's work with what does work. And so to tie the story that I was saying, into this was the story with the white guy who is again weaponizing whiteness in these so-called Jedi spaces, right? Which is why I was like, I want you as part of this, and I said it in so many ways, but he wasn't budging because he don't have to. He's a white guy. And so I called and talked to my mentor about it, and I was like, ma'am, who's a Black woman in leadership, like, this is what's going on. I'm fitting to either quit or to cuss somebody's son out. So what is your suggestion here? And she started the starting of the conversation started to sound to me like, kind of, get along, just get along. Be like, okay, try to meet with him because he holds a high position he's a leader in the group. Try to meet with him, regularly, and set, the agenda, and like do all these things to accommodate and cuddle. And I had to say, ma'am, with all due respect, I love you, auntie, but I don't think we need to be doing this behavior in 2021. We're not going to move forward, because what I'm hearing you say, I hear you, but it's sounding it's giving very much mommy like response, very much cuddling, and just like he can go ahead and suck my nipple here, so to manage his behavior. And it's given very much like not where we need to be at right now. And again, I was respecting her age and stage and realizing that that's what they had to do and continue to do to be where they are, for the most part. But that is not what we're trying to be right now. So by the time I finished talking to her, she started kind of coming along with where I was coming along. Yeah, girl. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You might have to leave. Because she was talking about, you don't know what positions he's in. You don't know where he might, you don't want no trouble, basically. Again, we're talking, that fear, all the negative thing. I'm like, okay, I hear you. I hear all of that, but at what cost? Like, that's one thing, but at what cost though? Like, how have we benefited? How have I benefited from you doing that? How have we benefited from that mindset? Maybe if enough of us decided, well, fuck it, right? We're gonna just be like, no, this is unacceptable. Maybe if enough of us, had that courage, right, while protecting those who truly have no choice, while accommodating for those who truly, just truly were like, yo, that's okay, stay in the house. It's okay, stay in the house. You can't be out here. Your situation is stay at home, okay? So you stay with her, take care of her. The rest of us will be out here, but enough of us, like, creating the spaces for that army, so to speak, for lack of a better analogy, to be created so that we can be out here for real, and we are supported, and and we are nurtured to raise, to be able to coalesce that that energy, that voice, to not just call people, make people uncomfortable, but hold them accountable, really have these systems by the balls, like, for real, and just, like that's the conversation I want to be about. And then maybe, and it doesn't need to be 500 people. It doesn't need to be 1,000 people. It doesn't have to be 10,000 people. Freaking 10 people, freaking 5 people who don't give a fuck and are just out here to, like, get shit done, I think is enough. And then folks that are in the house, like, I can't come out. You don't understand. I got bills. I got this. For me, I'm just not there. That's not I'm not at that. Y'all, I know y'all got bills too, but I'm in a different place. That's okay. But that they will peek out the window and see us out there and be like, and then get enough estrogen to get up out there and do what they have to do. I think that, to me, I feel like that's the conversation. That's the conversation I want to be about. I'm sick and tired, lessons learned, and sick and tired of the use, just like, why this sucks, how powerful they are, all these bad things. And, like, okay, what is that serving? What is the result? What is coming out of that? So I've spoken a lot, girl, but you unleashed the whole garden hose here. And it's just like, yo, we need to be visioning about true liberation work. And your word, what you said is right. How do we invest in those voices? How do we get those voices, get us together and invest in them and provide the tools and the structure and the infrastructure to allow for those voices to be leveraged, so that we are truly squeezing, these systems by the balls.
Yeah, and I don't even know that those voices need to be Black voices. I mean, this is, for me, for 2022, because we can't provide air cover for ourselves unless we have a position of power to do so. So who's going to provide the air cover for us? I mean, I am in less of a hierarchical structure than others. I'm not in academia. I don't live there, and I never will. So for anyone who's wondering, never. It's never going to happen. But in any context, there's a power structure. You have access to power based on different things, whether it be your role power, your positioning, socially or whatever. And some people just don't have access to that power. So when you do speak, what you do need is someone providing air cover for you. And for me, it's like there are a lot of silent people who have power based in their actual social and role power who are still afraid to speak up. I mean, not even people that are also like we are, processing the trauma, our specific trauma of working in spaces that don't want us to be there. These are people who are navigating other things, true, and those are important to be acknowledged. But in this specific space, they're not also navigating racial trauma on top of everything else, yet they're still not speaking up. They're not providing air cover. Some people are, and I've seen that in 2021, so I will acknowledge that there are people who are not Black, in positions of power, trying to provide air cover in the way that they know how, and they're not always good at it. So part of me is like, I do want us to figure out how to navigate spaces in ways that honor what our responsibilities are. And yes, people do get their, their jobs get lost, or their opportunities get missed, or they get shut out in very like interpersonal ways, like showing up in a space even with a status and not being able to interact with each other. I mean, there are very real consequences to that. But I have noticed an overwhelming silence for people who don't have those same vulnerabilities. And that is what I am sick of.
Are you talking about white people? You talk about white people or
it's not Black, anybody that's not Black, anyone who's
everyone
positioned.
that's not Black? Yeah. But the thing is, Jessica, should we, you know what? I hear you. I come from a different space. And my space is, there's a brother on Twitter. If you don't follow him, let me try and find his name. His name is Hal, but I will give you his Twitter handle in a second. And every time he shows up in the space introducing himself, I love the way he introduces Hal Harris. And his Twitter handle is at established 1865. At established 1865. Hal shows up in spaces. He's like, he has this wonderful monologue for introducing himself. But part of it is, and this is my paraphrase, because of course he says it more eloquently. He said, the first time I heard it, I was so tickled because it was like so perfect. He's like, I have cultivated I think he said, the last time I heard him say, he's like, almost aggressive disinterest in the inner lives of white people. So his focus, he's like, I am so focused on, elevating Black lives. And I forget the way he says it. He says Black. I have to look through his work, but y'all can go check him out and you can find out everything that you need. And he writes, they're part of the WOC, WEOC, which is Writers and Editors of Color collection. And they're leaders of the 1619 Project book club. So, and they've done a lot of work. So they just like taking over Medium and doing just great work writing. So him and Allison and LA Justice, there's all these wonderful Black writers that are doing beautiful work in that space. But the way he says this, and this also speaks to another point that I'm going to make, but he says that for us as Black people, really to operate from a liberation standpoint and to be really, to really build ourselves, our ultimate equalist political and economic power, it is necessary to cultivate a disinterest in the inner lives of white people, or white adjacent or white invested people, like all of them, okay, and them, I'm a them. Like I just cannot be worried about what white people are doing or white adjacent people. They will always be invested in power and maintaining power dynamics. Like this is literally the definition of whiteness for them. So I think I support everything that you're saying. At the same time, I just realized that there is such an investment in the status quo from these people that it is, and we only have so much life that I just cannot. So for me, it's like, so my questions really then become, how do we use, because I also think that so much energy is spent thinking about them, worrying about them, that we forget to really see what's literally in front of us. And the powerful Black people, now staying within the Black context, powerful Black people of different walks, like I mentioned, the Woke Collective, for example, there are people in journalism, in media, in all these different frames, all these different walks, in sports, in entertainment, in arts, and they do hold positions, or they do have, and so how do we have Black families that were never enslaved, that have been free from the beginning of ever, right? And have accumulated wealth. So, we have, how do we, I think those are difficult conversations because we need to unpack so much there, right? That how do we, in other words, build our community among all the diverse facets of Blackness and harness, therefore coalesce and then harness our economic and political power? Like, those are my questions, right? And like when I was quoting Bell Hooks, and she was talking about dominator culture, and then keeping us all afraid, making us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity. I'm talking about Black people. I'm talking about sameness in Black personhood. That's what Hal likes to say. Black personhood, cultivating deep interest in Black personhood. He talks about that, and but it's talking about Black community, our diversity in the Black community, talking about our, let me open this up again, talking about safety, it still focuses, on in that. And I just want to have more conversations, because I think there's such incredible strength and power there. And that if we truly just like invest in that, we will find that we don't have time.
Well,
Not even the time.
This is the thing though. So like for white people do hold power, right? In very specific ways. That doesn't mean that we don't, but you have to navigate whiteness in order to get things done. Like that's an inevitable. So just in a concrete example, if I want to change something in my clinical setting, I have to engage with white people. I have to do collective organizing with white people. And I also have to get some air cover from white people who have a lot more power within that institutional setting than I do. That does not mean that I'm offering therapeutic interventions to white people or caretaking for white people's feelings, but it does mean that for those people who are willing to provide that cover, that they know what they're doing and how to do it. I mean, like, and it is what it is. The way that I have navigated the world, the things that I've been exposed to, I could walk into a space and say what needs to be said, just coming from my brain. There are other people who have not done that work, or who are actively doing that work and are just not there, but are in the room that I will never have access to, because of the way that I present myself to the world and things that I say. And giving them the things that they need to know to actually be effective is what I am thinking. So part of this is me not showing up and being the person all of the time, but actually having people who know, sort of like what I was thinking was like a boot camp sort of thing, people who know what to say, how to say it, to get the things done that we need to get done. That kind of collaboration. And that of course requires people not to be silent. So I do hear you, that we do have our collective power. There are things that we can do, but and I know we are operating in institutions that are overwhelmingly white. There are rooms that are overwhelmingly white. And then those are the kinds of relationships that I'm thinking would be necessary to even fight the topic of medical racism. Like how can we accomplish that just with ourselves without navigating whiteness? I don't know if I have the imagination for that, considering these are the people, even for example, in Massachusetts, Blue Cross Blue Shield now is like offering statistics on disparities, so differences across a number of domains. And it took white people to decide that they would leverage their insurer power to force other people within the, the healthcare industry to actually give a damn about disparities. But that's a white people power, because they hold those, top level positions in the organization, deciding it was relevant and then forcing others to do so. And that's kind of what I mean. I would like to weaponize whiteness against whiteness in ways that I can't necessarily show up and weaponize my Blackness against whiteness, because they're not going to listen to me. They're going to invalidate, dismiss what I have to say, all those sorts of things. So I'm just thinking how to leverage that as a resource. And I really do mean as a resource, not as like a representative, but as a resource that has access to things that I don't have access to right now, and might help me get more naps or not have to show up as much and do everything and wear 50 million different hats. So the selfish interest, but of course it does require, again, working within a context where white people are present, and we'll be throwing up things that are going to be exhausting in and of themselves. But I don't know how to avoid whiteness in hopes of changing anything. And actually, for Bell Hooks' quote, when she talked about choosing safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity, I don't know that and you can tell me, I don't know if I didn't read it as her speaking directly to just us, but more so speaking to the collective human.
Yeah, she probably was. No, this is my interpretation. This is my takeaway. Yeah, I'm applying it to the Black context. Yeah, no, she probably likely almost 100% was speaking to the collective humans. Yes. Mm-hmm. At the same time, again, because I come from the same place as Brother Hal, where I am, overwhelmingly interested and invested in the development of Black personhood. I appreciate the diversity within us, our community itself, and the need for us to embrace our diversity in order to move forward, right? To ensure that every member of the Black family is involved, and not just involved or included, but also is celebrated in our march towards liberation, or a march of liberation, which I don't think is a destination as much as it's just a daily process and daily journey, right? Internal and external. So So yeah, it's just my application of what she's saying. Although, yeah, you're absolutely right that she likely was talking to the collective human race.
I mean, as far as like the collective exhaustion, what is the fix for that? I mean, it's either we persist or we don't. And I don't know how many people are going to choose not to persist. I know some have. We probably lost people in 2021 who were trying to make a difference and just found that it was too heavy of a burden to bear. But knowing that we can basically have, I mean, this is me saying it's a binary to persist or quit, which is something I think about all the time. I also have been thinking about that too for 2022. And if I do decide to persist, like what will that persistence like look like? How will that be structured? And what will be the same versus different? And a part of what you're saying that I do really resonate with, which I think has evolved over the past, I would say, I don't want to say it's just, I don't know, has evolved since college, has been what do I allow and what do I not? Like, what do I accept versus what do I reject? And thinking about that person sitting in the room, one rejection for me has been and will continue to be, I mean, there's power that I will acknowledge and then power that I will not. And I can make that decision. There's the power that they tell me is relevant, and then there's a power that I view as relevant. And in that particular space that you're talking about, that person ain't really got no power. I mean, like the power rooted in like knowledge, awareness, and skill set, like if that's the starting point, then he's like the most powerless person in the room. And then, how would you interact with that person accordingly? It's different than what your mentor is going to say, but a part of it is just calling it what it is, which my suggestion would be in the room, maybe to talk about the culture explicitly or to name the dynamics in the room explicitly, what is happening here, and then let that individual sit with it and everybody else has to work through it. So if he's bulldozing his way into a conversation and says something ignorant, that's not quite correct. Can you tell me where you got that from? Or I've noticed a pattern that you have a tendency to take up lots of space in the conversation, and I'd like you to take up less. Now that requires me to ignore, again, the power that's telling me that I should respect. And I think that for me, that's going to be boundary setting for 2022, because I just can't disavow my own power and then over acknowledge somebody else's. So
yeah, I agree. I think boundary setting is huge. I don't know. So speaking of boundaries and all that, there's a show I just finished watching on Apple TV, The Shrink Next Door. It was built on have you seen that? It's played by, but you've seen the trailer or heard about it?
Yeah, I've heard about it from my own people, and I heard that it was a whole bunch of boundary violations. And
ooh, child, like I was so mad. Like I have never been so mad for a white man ever, actually, come to think about it, in my life. I mean, when I say I felt bad for that one, I said, Jesus, this is bad. But it made me think about my life, and it made me think about the ways in which I allow folks to violate my boundaries all the time. And so to your point, even this example is one of them. And it's funny that you say that, because I have called this gentleman to the side. And what's going to be different now is me naming it in public. I still, my Nigerian home training still has this twinge of like, okay, let's not embarrass people too much anyway, too much in public, especially if they're older. But that's another piece that I'm gently chipping away, because it doesn't matter, Nigerian, Haitian, Detroit, the South, wherever we were raised, wherever we are, if it's not serving us, it's got to the side. Like, church, mosque, synagogue, like whatever, education, whatever status or social status signifier and identifier that we lay claim to, again, how is it serving me? Is it serving me in the point that at the end of it, here is my peace, here is my joy, here is my abundance, here is the ways that I'm thriving, or not? And if it is not, then it's got to the side. I might need some help with doing that, because this is like a lifetime of accumulating these habits. But again, what is serving me and what is not? And so so for myself, I practice the naming from at least within. I have to first of all recognize it. And I have called this gentleman to the side and told him about himself. I have told him about how whiteness, and I've named whiteness, is showing up. He, like you said, as someone without the range, I don't think it, like, how our mothers would say, it goes into your right ear, comes out of your left. I don't think the information went here and it couldn't even get in to his ear, because that is how limited to non-existent his range is to have like these conversations. But he's trying. He's a good white man, so he's trying, but he doesn't even have that range. And this is the piece of where whiteness shows up. Doesn't respect the fact that, well, I'm the expert then in this room, not just me and then my sisters are also part of this group, I'm the expert. You need to have several seats. I need you to not take up so much space. I need you to even rethink your presence in this group, because you already hold leadership. So there is a power dynamic. Oh, I've been president and CEO of many multinational organizations, and I've worked with 3 million, 1,000 billion people, and I've never said the word power.
That was the offering?
That was his offering. I said, bro,
you've never dated.
That is not the take that you were imagining it to be. That is a problem. You mean to tell me you held powerful positions, but you never said power? So what is that like? What are you saying? Therefore, you didn't have child, sit down. I'm schooling you. I said, listen, I'm never been CEO or president of large organizations or whatever over the world, but I have been CEO and president of Ijeoma Nodimopara. Okay, and the navigating of Blackness and Africanness and womanness in the world. I've also been a leader in grassroots organizing and activism. And I'm telling you, sir, you're out of pocket. And he did the white thing of just being read. And when you don't have anything else to say, and just leaned into his niceness of, well, thank you for teaching me. I was uncomfortable, but thank you. But did his behavior change?
Right.
Really. So that's the thing. So I think, so to your point, yeah, we can call it out. And this is why it gets me to this place of reaffirming. Yeah, this is why I can't be interested in these people, because especially someone like you are invested in your whiteness. And as long as you get to kind of dictate the pace of your learning, and you're not challenged by an outspoken, loud, accented Black woman with scarf and huge earrings, then you get to kind of write this story, write this narrative of who you are and the good that you're doing, while being obstructive to Black women trying to get some shit done, like actually being a Jedi committee that's gonna get shit done, and not just like meeting to meet, right? And you are being obstructive to that, but you refusing, like we talk about the epistemology, the constructed epistemology of ignorance, right? Of white ignorance. And so you are refusing to see your role, So I wrote him an email that was more explicit, and that's why I am talking about 2022. Hoocha, the explicitness.
Formulation, because I mean they're not gonna that paper with like the racial attention deficit is real, plus just racism is real. So the things that you offer are always going to be filtered through a racist like lens, racist ears, racist eyes, racist processing, all that good stuff. But I live for an email formulation. I mean, I've enjoyed sending emails this year.
Emails are my judge.
They're important because for you it's validating, because you're transcribing your perception of reality, right, on a piece of paper, and then you're offering it to them. And of course they can have a very number of reactions to it, including outright dismissal, projection, and all other sorts of things. So of course, I hope you wrote them and had other people in your corner to revalidate you, based on how they respond. But I like the emails, because then I wrote the email, you can see the email, 10 other people can see this email, and it's here, and you can't reinvent my perspective. My perspective is what it is. And I say this because this tendency for things to happen and then to be quiet about them and hope that they disappear is also another reason why I like the email, because the email forces it to exist. So that thing happened, of course, this is the way that I would like to formulate it, but now this email exists, so it actually did happen, versus like 2 weeks later pretending that nothing actually happened.
Right. Yeah. No, I love emails. I hear you. I love emails, and I always blind copy a sister on it.
Oh, little known secret, y'all. I mean, we
I always buy copy of sister on it. Yeah,
because, you know, we know how this works.
we
So
we
just
know exactly how this works.
right. But yeah, I don't think so. I do think that, you know, we talk about who Harriet Tubman would have left behind. There are plenty of people who need to be left behind. Plenty of white people who need to be left behind. That is true. Plenty of white people who are more harmful than they are helpful. Even like well-intentioned people are going to be more harmful than helpful. So I don't think that forcing ourselves, or you should not stay on the committee with that person, or forcing ourselves to be in those spaces is smart. But I want to labor. That's what I want to do for 2022 is redistribute labor. I
Okay.
feel like we are driving ourselves down to our death. That's honestly what it feels like. I can't say 2021 was the year of health
No,
or
I can't either. I
well-being.
tried though. Ha! She tried,
I
but yeah.
don't know what that looks like. I don't know. We could just write a manifesto amongst ourselves and disseminate that and never interact. Like, I'm not saying it has to be going out on coffee and tea dates or sitting in committee meetings or spending physical time with white people. But I do not want, I need other people to pitch in and offer some labor, because it's just not sustainable in any other way. And one thing that people love to say is I don't know what to do, and that's not true. Maybe it's true a little bit, but if you know what to do, and this is me, and I'll be like 55 and say, Jessica, remember you said that on December 19th, 2021, which is fine. But if you know exactly what to do and then you decide not to do it, that's a completely different scenario. So these are the things I'm percolating and thinking about for 2022 is, if I hand a roadmap with exactly what you need to do to help me survive and thrive, and then you decide not to do that, that's information for me, but that's also information for you. And then the good whiteness, that doesn't apply, right? You can be, the good whiteness just won't apply. I just didn't know what to do. And that's why I didn't do it. And then the things, the fan and it's over, it just won't apply. So those are the things I'm thinking about. And I could have a fully different thought come February 2022. But I don't know. That's kind of where I'm sitting at the end of the year now, is how can we redistribute some of this labor?
But Jessica, I'm wondering, how is this different than all what our ancestors been doing? James Baldwin been telling white people about white people and themselves since forever. Toni Morrison be doing. Everybody has been telling white people about themselves since forever. What are we gonna do differently? A, B, acknowledging that they are white people, like you acknowledged. And again, this is me stepping outside of my usual, because again, I am disinterested in them. I really am. I understand navigating whiteness. Since moving to this country, I've always been in predominantly white spaces, but I don't even know, have I navigated? Did I navigate? Because I always was surrounded by Blackness, always, even being in Ann Arbor, Michigan, being in U of M in high school, everything, like high school, college, medical school, and now, like, even in predominantly white spaces, I always found myself in this like Black oasis. It was just always all kinds of Black, all diaspora, Black, but it was Black throughout my life. I don't know what it was. I guess you attract who you are, but you know, and it was that groundedness, I suppose, and then being from a strongly Black household, you know, it's that grounded that gave me skills to, I guess, navigate when needed, and to speak up. I don't know, because I'm still thinking a lot about what you're saying. But go ahead, dear.
So for me, one example that happened this year. So I went to an addiction treatment center, and this is like a super fancy, I couldn't even afford to go there, addiction treatment center. And the goal for going there was to make sure that they were increasing access to this treatment center for people who are not well-to-do, which of course class and race are intimately intertwined, and also not traumatizing people who are there seeking recovery. right? So for me, so when I'm saying what I am saying, I am thinking about how can I create a different experience for people when they're accessing predominantly white institutions. And in order to create that different experience for that person who might overdose tomorrow, I would have to work with the 100% white, leadership for that particular institution to create changes within that setting. Or if I'm thinking there's a clinic that's situated somewhere where it's like 80% Black people and most of the staff is white, which happens lots of places, and people are going have finally crawled out of bed, after 5 years of struggling with pretty severe debilitating depression. They finally crawled out of bed. They walk into this therapist office, let's say, and they're ready to pour out their personal Black business to this individual. How can I ensure that they'll have an experience where they won't
Gotcha.
the people who don't come back after the first visit, who are racially or ethnically, basically like non-white and not well-to-do. So when I am saying these things, that's where I'm positioned. That's what I'm trying to think about how to intervene on. And because those settings are run,
I see that. Okay, I see. How do we, because in predominantly white spaces where folks are in positions to engage with, interface with Black folks, how do we protect those Black folks from violent whiteness, right? And so how and the focus not now being on Black folks, this is what you got to do when you walk into spaces, but rather white folks, this is what you have to do to prevent yourself from being a vector of harm and violence to Black people. Is that
the only space? That is the only lane for which this conversation is relevant. I'm not saying let's go out to tea or anything like that, but I'm saying if you're in charge of taking care of people for my community, I need you.
Gotcha. I hear you. So I hear you. Yeah. Hence this your idea of boot camp, this boot camp idea, right?
Right. And it could fail, it could flop, it could be completely ineffective. Right? I'm not saying it's that I'm 100% confident it can work, but I don't know. I feel that with the power and positioning that I do have, that if I could create a different experience for anyone, then that's worth doing. That's how I feel. And maybe 5 years from now, I'll realize I can't do it. I do know a Black woman psychiatrist who did quit, who is actually, and I don't know her personally, I heard about her, who was in these spaces trying to do some of the same work and just quit and said, I can't do this. I'm going to start my own treatment center. Right. So in 5 years, it might be that I just have my own treatment center and just do it that way, run it, hire my own people and all those sorts of things. But at this time, I guess I'm where she was maybe like 5 or 8 years ago. Let's try to change it from within.
Yeah. I mean, and I can see that because the reality of the math of it, the math that's mathing is that it's still predominantly white healthcare providers that are serving our people, period, right? We're only like 0.000%. I'm exaggerating, but we're less than 5%, we're less than 4% of the space, in this space, and it's in healthcare, but of course we see is the same data literally mirrored in law and in corporate and in etc. Right? So to your point is that these folks are still gonna be selling, serving, working with, Black folks. How do we train them to disinvest? And really it's a divestment or disinvestment from whiteness, right? It comes down to like a disinvestment from, I guess, I know I heard you say, weaponize whiteness against whiteness. I don't know. Is that even possible? Because the very definition of whiteness is to protect itself. Whiteness is built on exploitation, extraction, dominance and violence. So of others that don't look like it, in order to preserve itself. So there's some like Marvel. It's reminding me. It's giving very like sci-fi, like how does can you split an atom against itself kind of. But the idea is that at least what Uncle James Baldwin and said, at bell hooks, when you read all these works, is that you can't, like the intrinsic and inherent to the very definition of whiteness is this violent exploitation, extraction, and harm built on this idea of dominance and superiority, to hoard power, economic and political power. So I sort of come from a standpoint that I don't think we can leverage whiteness against whiteness. You got to destroy whiteness. You got to be you got to disinvest from this scam, this fantasy of whiteness that has manifested itself in very real, right? Powerful systems that are built on injustice, inequity, and violence and harm. But I don't know that. But I think that for those that do want to be disinvested, and I hopefully y'all in the audience, you've read James Baldwin's On Being White and Other Lies. Like that is like the book, the papers, the essays to read. And until there is a divestment, I think it's really that. I think that has to be step one. Then step two is, okay, so now when you come across a white Black person, but that that idea, that scam of whiteness needs to be divested. That's my mindset. So whatever this looks like, it should be that, because your point is, yes, we can build our own treatment center, but we're still woefully under, and that's fine. I support it all day. I'm all about, Black, build our own shit, because I'm not dealing with these people over their shit, fighting over their shit. They're mediocre shit, by the way. Like, so I'm not even doing that. However, I because I'm all about Black unity, I respect, Black folks that do think like, well, there is a space for us to understand, like from a math standpoint and a representation standpoint, there's not enough of us to serve all of us. So we have to, think critically about how do we identify the white people that are ready to divest. Because I don't know, again, to your point about the energy piece, the fighting of like white people, like, and that are not ready, bye, boy, girl, bye, all y'all, bye, But if you are, this is, how do you come to a space and then be equipped with what it takes in order to then ensure that you would not be harmful to our people and therefore to people? Because again, if you take care of the most multiply marginalized people, you take care of the most dark-skinned, Black, female, trans, disabled, person, everybody on the ladder is automatically taken care of. And so if you are protective and you are serving truly these folks, knowing that everybody else benefits, then hopefully you get to influence your mama and your daddy and your uncle and your pastor and all of it, right? And go from there. But more importantly, you get to influence your Congress people, right? Like, and get laws changed and policies written and etc. You get to do that yourself. You get to influence the people that represent and that write and implement these laws. You get to influence where resources and monies get distributed, etc., etc., etc. So I can see that. I can peep that dream. And I think it, again, because I reject the binary. There is multiplicity, and I think our Blackness is expansive to hold the multiplicity of solutions and approaches. I think it lies parallel to, the sort of Black disinterested in white people and their lives and their systems and all that, and a focus more on like building, Black wealth and health that is Black centric, that is Afrocentric. And I think there's space for all those things to live together. There has to be, I think. There just has to be. So I'm loving all of it. I'm wondering what people are dreaming in the chat. What are y'all dreaming about in the chat? I see Brian and Dr. Green out here like super active, and thank you for that.
And Ruth is saying, Ruth, saying I tell them what I need them to do. that like underline that, like this is exactly what I need you to do. But you would have to be saying that to people who recognize that they do need to be told what to do or instructed on what to do, which is a role reversal, because usually white people are trying to tell us what we need to do, what the way that we should be thinking and how we should be operating. But really it is like, this is what I need you to do. This is the specific way that you can be useful to me for this to be an effective effort, and just leaving it at that, which is a lot different than coddling feelings, holding hands. This is your objective, like this is your mission. So go out and do it.
And literally that was what my email said. My last like straw. I was like, so anyway, thank you for always being a champion for, our committee. But as the, this person with this position, I'm just privacy stuff. So, okay, this person, this position. So we're going to need you to do these 3 things. This is what we're going to need from you. This is how I think we will benefit from you. This is how you can leverage your position, not being in all the meetings, waxing poetic. No, I need you to find us money so that we can get the speakers we want to bring. We were trying to bring a speaker. She gave her fee. They couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. A whole organization like you couldn't afford it, right? That's fine, but this is a bad speaker. We all know who she is. So I'm like, nah, I need you to go out there and get some grants to be able to afford the speakers we want, to speak, not who you want to speak, which by the way, he had made these suggestions. And of course, one was a white man, another. And I was just like, so this is what we want. Okay. And we don't want to hear that you don't have the money for it, because we have advanced time. I'm going to need you to go on ahead. And sorry, that's my phone and things. I have to call her later. How do you turn this off? I can say decline. There we go.
You can combine it with other departments. Like he needs to sit down and figure out how to make it happen.
You can, exactly. That's the thing. And that's to your point, is that when you have divested from whiteness, first of all, like Ruth is saying, when you have divested from, first of all, you recognize that you are not the expert in this space. So listen to the people, right? Like, you're not going to start giving me pushback. When I say, okay, we're going to need this speaker, you're not going to tell me, well, I don't know, you're not going to start this. Like, we're not doing this. So this is the first thing, right? And then secondly, you will be asking different questions. Okay, all right, well, we right now don't have the funds for her, but what are some ways that we can get the funds, right? You're going to be asking possibility questions. You're going to be posing, but you're going to be looking to excavate potential. What can we do? How do we make this happen? Not that we cannot, because I remember very well, I was invited to give a keynote at a university institution, and the person was a new faculty, so he was still trying to navigate, the whole, the dynamics there. And I gave my price, and they started negotiating with me. Meanwhile, he had opened up to me that there was a celebrity author that they wanted to bring in who was charging 6 times my price. 6 times my price. And you know what he said? When he thought he was like, oh, because he wasn't used to all that. He was new. He was new to the game. He didn't know that people out here charging, Brené Brown and them are charging 100,000, Malcolm Gladwell, like 300 million, billion, trillion. And he said, yeah, when he went back to his boss to be like, well, this is how much she's charging. Oh, it's a lot. Can we even afford it? And the boss was like, if we want her, we will find the money. Like, that was all I needed to hear. But I was like, so why are you going back and forth with me on my little, so, again, right? Again. So to what we're discussing is this sense of, divesting from whiteness and therefore valuing, seeing us as the expert, as the professional, respecting and valuing who we are and what we bring to the table, so that you're not going back and forth with me. You are not adding MMHGs to my systolic blood pressure because I'm trying. You have, like Brian was saying, no range, no capacity in this space. We're not talking about for OBGYN. We're not talking about radiology. We're not talking about dermatology. This is a whole different space. And I'm telling you, and now we're doing this. No, 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 no. So that's like to what Ruth is. I'm curious to know about when Ruth is literally handing them out their assignments. Are they like taking it and saying, yes, ma'am? That's what I want to know. Because if anybody is like out here not taking it and like, and we're getting back and forth, ma'am, you've already lost.
Ma'am, no. Is it a waste of time? But it's also communicating something. It's communicating something. And you don't go back and forth with people that you respect. You don't go back and forth with people that you trust. And not that you have to say, like, take everything and run with it. There could be pushback, but not just outright resistance, not just wasting time on a well-formulated suggestion that you didn't just think of yesterday. Yeah, there's a whole lot of knowledge there. But I like the word assignment. You would have to trust the person giving you the assignment is not like what the culture produces in other people, which is like a leveraging of power in a way that can appear on surface to be well-intentioned and good, but is actually very toxic and harmful. So you would have to have a different kind of trust of a different kind of person versus like the stereotypical like representative of the culture. And I can see how that could be challenging and hard. But and also you would have to stop projecting all your badness into us to see us as that person. You have to keep it inside yourself. And by that, I mean, whiteness gives away everything bad and keeps everything good. That's how it survives.
Right. The hoarding. Right. Hoarding of assets. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
They're good and bad inside themselves and not just give all their bad to us, to even have an opportunity to see us as people who have goodness, who can take, for example, a well-formulated suggestion and offer it and get the results that we're looking for.
I get the results that like, are you serious telling me about you were the CEO of this, that? Who gives a flying fuck who you were? Like how I'm trying to understand what that means, anything to me. I hope your baby isn't there with her auntie cussing on the YouTube. But Jess, because I'm in my basement, hopefully safely in my basement so they don't hear me. But with all due respect, right? Like, exactly, to be able, I love what you're talking about, because again, key things about white, first of all, white people just need to be introduced to white people. I think that is just like number 1, 2, 3 to 10. I'm going to take some time. Hey, baby, I'm just going to take some time to actually, address the issue again, because I'm so fiercely disinterested in them. But I will, because we're on this little YouTube podcast. We're gonna call it a podcast, okay?
We're trying.
We will take some time, and I will talk about Karen, Kevin, Rachel, and them. But they need to be introduced to that. That's the piece here is, I wrote a poem where I talked about how white people sold their soul for power, right? Sold their soul, their soul for power, which rids them, when you're investing in whiteness, in the ability to humanize others, to humanize anything that doesn't look like you, including you. That's what trips me about whiteness. This shit is also self-destructive. It is the most confused system of oppression ever, and so, because it will hurt itself, it's suicidal and homicidal. I mean, this shit is crazy. And so, excuse me. And so this idea is that white folks need to be introduced to white folks, need to understand what it means to be white, because again, part of whiteness to be insidious and invisible, like, no, I'm just a human in the world, just out here living.
The best kind of human, not just a human.
Yeah, not just a human, the best kind of human. I'm the most civilized, I'm the most clean, I'm the most honest, I'm the most good, I'm the most democratic. Shit, and more shit, right? And so this is the construct that needs to be broken first. And implicit in that is that the other flip of it is there for you as literally the epitome, especially don't be a Black woman, right? And don't be like a Black trans woman or Black disabled woman or Black trans disabled woman again, right? Because you are literally, and there'll be a Black disabled trans woman who's Muslim or just not Christian. Honey, don't have an accent in the middle of all that. Like, all your intersectionalities, that is the literal opposite of like the tall, clean shaven white man Jesus, right? Looking person, white Jesus looking person. And his Bex. So don't be the opposite of that, because then you, like what you were saying, epitomize everything that is not good and perfect and smart and expert and professional, whatever label you literally have put my, so that when you're literally speaking, when I'm literally saying, okay, this is what we would do, you reject it. There's no way. You can't even help yourself interrupting me.
Which
you
is
can't even help yourself. You
yeah.
can't even help yourself bring adding things to the agenda to the meeting I called. You can't even help yourself say, no, we will not do this, we will do that. And I'm the chair of the committee. You can't even help yourself. You don't even see what you did wrong. You can't even see it. You don't even, it doesn't even compute that you are totally out of all the pockets. You don't. And that is the thing. How do you, they have to be divorced. Someone said in the chat, divorced, disconnected, removed from that scam of invested whiteness for them to get to a position where then we can't give the assignment. They can't take the assignment because then they conceive us as the assignment giver. You see what I'm saying?
And so I'll say this, one of the questions, and this is, and there's so many things, but like the script, like in script, I don't know if that includes everything, but the scripted role plays that we end up in these stupid conversations where they're doing things like what you're describing, that is something I don't want to participate in anymore.
Right.
If you don't have any restraint, like if you have fully embraced not needing to restrain yourself because you fully invest in whiteness, then we're not going to get anywhere. Like it's just not going to happen.
It's
right?
Not happen.
Everything that you just described is going to happen. And I mean, it's sort of like I am one who at this time fully believes in mostly social conditioning explains why people don't have restraint. And I'll say this, which for people, and you've probably experienced this too, when I'm in a store with my daughter, my social conditioning is one of the box. So it's like, you're not going to do this thing, that thing, or that thing, because I know we exist in this box, right? Me as a Black mom, you as a Black child, versus other people are conditioned into the world as mine. I own this. The space is mine. So I'm going to run around and do X, Y, and Z, and there's not going to be any repercussions for that because it's mine.
Yeah.
So that's my social conditioning bit. But as far as like the DNA piece of things, which is being discussed in the chat, that part, I do think I a part of the reason why we are having the challenges that we're having is because within our DNA over time, transmitted over generations, this is just what we do. Like we sit in a space and things are messed up or wrong without us trying to fix them. And of course, we're imperfect. There are things that we accept in the status quo in other ways as well, beyond our experiences of race. But I feel like this, this is just what we're supposed to be doing. And I don't know if I think that's a combination of both genes and social conditioning. Like, I don't know that someone said to me personally, hey, Jessica, this is what I want you to do for the rest of your life is fight this particular battle. It's sort of like it just comes naturally that I would be interested in this thing. So that is the one thing I will say about DNA. But for the most part, I think those interactions are social scripts. We're taught how to do those things and we just do them. Until someone says, hey, let's flip the script and let's do things differently, which is what you're asking people to do. But as far as who does that, I'm not saying I want to have a boot camp that teaches people about their white. I don't know if I could survive that.
No,
but
no. I know that's not what you're saying. Yeah. No, you're like, people need to become they have to be pre-baked, right? It's like we call it parboiled rice. You know about parboiled rice? You know about rice that's parboiled? Excuse me. Yeah, it's like so back home we used to cook rice a certain way, certain types of rice we used to cook a certain way. You boil it first, right, so that it's soft and whatnot, and then you can wash it real good, and then you boil it properly and cook whatever, your jollof rice, your fried rice, your whatever rice, right? But there's like a pre-boiled stage, right, so that you can get up in there and wash it and do all kinds of things, and then you cook it, properly. So what I'm saying is that you want these white folks to come and rice is a perfect analogy, pun intended, to come pre-boiled. And then you cook them proper by providing the tools to not be, vessels of harm, injury, and violence against Black people. But they have to come to you pre-boiled, like they have to already have that outer skin that outer shaft removed, because the skin, the rice lives in a little shell, a little brown shell, right? Before they like and remove it. So the parboil helps you to remove all those extra dirt and the ones that are still in shelled, like they're still encased in their covering. So that's that whiteness that needs to be washed out. So this will come already. Yeah. Already, because we don't have the energy to start like pre-boiling you and then now super boil you and then make you into jollof rice.
That's perfect. I think that captures my main lesson. This is like a marathon. Like we dived into this. We're just trying to figure it out. And one thing I have figured out is you can't help everybody. You just can't. No. And it's not healthy to try. So having some like criteria for engagement, I mean, is a cool thing for 2022. And yeah, I mean it'd be nice to
yeah.
People who are
so what are thoughts around creating have you seen, there's this infographic that somebody created last year. It's called the Antiracist journey, like there are different phases, so you can go from beginner.
Yes.
Who made it, you said?
I think a surgeon made it, actually.
Ooh, fascinating.
Not like a specialty person.
Very interesting. It's blue. I just know it's blue and it's white, and I have it saved somewhere. And so I'm wondering about like almost like, how you have all these institutional readiness tools and surveys and things like that. You probably want to create something like that. Are you ready? Like, how ready are you? What is your readiness level to like level up in terms of being a true like agent of change and agent of non-violence and non-harm against Black people? Like, what's your readiness? And if your score is, you scored 1 to 5 or something, if your score is 1 or 2, Charlie, go back to the pre-boiling station.
You're speaking
back to the pre-boiling station.
I've been collecting assessments and all these sort of things to build something just like what you described. And it can be used in lots of different ways. Like, it can be self-diagnostic, but also as a screening tool. Like, what if we had a screening tool for engagement? And that was what we used to decide whether or not to align with or be in spaces with. And obviously lots of us don't always have this choice, and some of us never have it. But what if we could screen people in and screen people out? I think that would be protective, as it relates to the title. When anti-racism becomes trauma, we don't often have the chance to screen all the time. Sometimes we're thrust into spaces that we don't really have a lot of control over being in. But I think a screening tool as a 2022 goal is at the top of my list. The top of my list. And you don't have to have a conversation about it. It's just like you said, this is your score. And then built into the tool, these are the instructions, which means go back, right? Like, we don't have to have a chat about the score. It's just, this is the score. And then you got to go do some more work to protect.
Right. To protect us. And like Brian is saying in the chat, and we need you to be at this level of readiness to even talk. That's right. To even engage in the conversation. Because in conversation, I had actually something happened recently, and I need to talk to you about it offline, where one of our schools, in the university, reached out to me, and I was just like, wow, this exists. That's why I can even have this conversation about and create space that, okay, because even back in the day, our ancestors saw that there were few whites who were willing to divest and disinvest in a very unique way, and understood.
Right. And before you continue.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I am not coming from pie in the sky. I also am leveraging micro examples, so interpersonal examples, where it does give me some hope. Now, if I were to look at like macro examples, like how institutions are behaving and showing their ass, I would not have hope.
You would not have hope. You would not have hope. And that's literally what I was going to quote in this moment, that I had a meeting, an interpersonal micro experience, where the leadership, with the dean, of this place, and as a white man, and he was like, yo, I'm about to get this work done. What do you need us to do? Shorty? What do you need to do? I think he probably said shorty. I mean, I'm sure I heard it,
I'm gonna ignore that piece of it because you're asking for assignment. So that's fine. You can call me Shorty. That's
No,
fine.
he was like about it. And what it was interesting about it is that there was a white lady that's part of the conversation who was sort of the liaison, right? I mean, there's a lot of interesting dynamics I was exposed to in that interaction that made me go,
Mm.
okay. And I will see when the real change comes, because I mean, they have a lot of work, I mean, groundwork to do. But the fact that you had the individuals that are willing, but it's still for them to really understand, do you know what this means? You know, divestment is painful as shit. It's like taking a super constipated poop. If any of you have ever taken way too much iron or being pregnant, like you understand, like even a bit, I know that's right, or had a baby, but I don't know. I really feel like,
Well, yeah, never mind. It's gonna be TMI. Had a baby with a complication, and then we're required to have a bowel movement from there.
girl, listen, it's not TMI, okay? Because all of it has happened for me. All of it has happened. And the point I'm trying to say, honey, is like, I would take giving birth to a baby through my hoo-ha than a constipation through the other end. Because, honey, let me tell you, when you call your dad, you're a married woman with kids, you are a homeowner, and you are a professional, and you call your father and say, Daddy, things happening and I'm stuck on this throne. I don't know how to get off and my butt is on fire. I'm just saying, that is how divesting from whiteness is. It's gonna be super uncomfortable. But Jesus, have you also had that kind of constipation and then gotten disimpacted somehow? Do you feel the relief though? Honey, you can fly. In fact, you do try to fly. You literally attempt to jump off something because you're so light and you're so relieved, and you feel, in the word is liberated, free. Once you get off, you poop out the burden of whiteness, honey. And so hey, baby, don't shush her, honey. Let her participate. We all need to be part of the conversation. I think it was Ruth. I think it was you at was it a Twitter talk? Yeah, the Twitter talk we had, and my baby was in the background. Ruth was like, no, let the baby talk. This is, all of us need to be participating in this. And I was like, Ruth, girl, you know, it is past their bedtime, but you do have a point. And so anyway, babies have a role in this conversation. I just will watch my mouth and I'll go potty mouth. But no, I think that to what we're talking about, that like, it is a burden that they need to be relieved of, frankly speaking, and is carrying that burden every day, the burden of power hoarding and greed, and then the consequences of harm and violence that is inherent and then ensues from it. It is a burden, and the freedom and liberation to, like, when you divest of that, they're really, it's incomparable. It's peerless, to be able to do that, to be in that position, to be in that space.
This is the thing. I love poop, but like,
I love poop.
A lot of people would opt for and forgive me, I am, but if you are so constipated that you cannot get it out, that small bowel obstruction, or I know there's some where it's just like your intestines stop moving, but what are the consequences of not addressing the issue? Because I feel like a lot of people would opt to not push. I mean, they would opt to not go through that painful experience despite the consequences. Like, what are the consequences of not?
No, I love that. Pushing the analogy. You're taking it to the analogy to the next level, right? So what's the next? Yeah, what's the consequence when you say, hell no, I don't want to? The thing about it is that feces, that fecal impaction is still there, whether you don't want to push or not. That's on you. That bad boy is still there. It's still accumulating, and eventually your ass might need to go for surgery. And that's the point, is that it is harming you. It is unhealthy. You're crazy uncomfortable, so that you're pissed at everybody. And then eventually it's gonna come out by hook or crook, literally hook or crook. And so it's going to have to, but it might cost you, a lot.
It leaks, right? Like, even if you don't get want to push, you're going to get leakage around.
Let's not forget about the leakage, the stinky leakage. So you walking around here stanky, your whiteness is funky, right? And fetid and putrid, right? Because of encoparesis is leaking around the hardness in your rectum. I mean, we have medicalized whiteness.
Oh my God, I can't. The reviews are gonna
whiteness is a bowel obstruction.
oh my God.
It's feces, it's fecal
But
impaction.
I don't think the thing I appreciate is I feel like, and I feel like I participate in this too. It's like confronting people with how painful it's going to be is just not a part of it. A part of selling it has been like sugarcoating it. Like, oh, just come along, just like appreciate diversity, you know, try to be inclusive. But no, it's an explosive, constipated bowel movement in order to get to where you're saying that you want to be, which is a person who, you know, embraces inclusion, strives for equity, values diversity, etc. So we're, you know, I don't know how we sell that, Dr. Opara. How do we sell this explosive, impaction, liberatory moment to people? I mean, so this is just some food for
I don't have to bring in our marketing brothers and sisters. Okay, so listen here, look here. We got an idea. It involves poop, impaction, and freedom. So make it work. Make it work. Let's see. We need to involve Mickey Mouse something marketing tool there. So somebody created, maybe someone in the chat can hook up a pitch. Brian said we can use this metaphor when talking to our GI colleagues. That is funny. That's funny. So what metaphor do we use for our GYN, our urologists?
We'll have
like kidney stones.
Ooh. I mean, something, the thing is, I mean, it's like silly as this sounds, people will do everything in their power to not connect with the pain of it all, right? So like using a very like visceral example, maybe all of us haven't felt it, but people can relate to how painful we've seen it in others. Making the pain real is actually a part of moving people along their progression.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're joking around, but that's true. It is painful, but it is the pain of growth. It's the pain of freedom. Freedom isn't free. Liberation isn't free. Nobody just, you know, we woke up free in God's eyes, but unfortunately not in man and woman's eyes, particularly man. And we are beholden to structures and strictures. I like to say structures and strictures. And so I think that
strictures, yes.
Yeah, it is structures and strictures. And so this idea that, oh, we just get to be and without cost, unfortunately, that's not the way it has been designed. There will be pain. Because and the thing about it is, and this is what I'm learning from Resmaa Menakem. I hope I'm saying his name correct. My grandmother's hands, healing from racialized trauma and the path forward. He said that there is pain. I think he said warm pain and cold pain, I think was the way he organized it. But it's this idea that there's pain regardless. You know, there's pain regardless. The pain of avoidance, the pain of refusal to engage, the pain of constructed intentional ignorance. There is pain. And to his point is that pain keeps you limited, keeps you constrained, it keeps you restrained, and you just live your life in pain. That's why you're out here pissed and insurrecting and you know, dying in opioids and meth and all the shit. And so there is pain regardless. Then you got the warm pain. I have to get, the book is upstairs, but I call it warm. Oh, the book is right here, girl. I just looked back and saw, but he called it, I think, warm pain. I have to tell you how he characterized the pain. But the other pain, the pain of giving in to learn, the pain of admitting wrong, the pain of justice, of change, and that it is painful, but it is a good pain. and is a pain that allows us to expand and reach and grow and be able to handle more. It's a pain that of better, you know. So I think a clean pain, my bad. So he calls it clean pain and dirty pain. Clean pain hurts like hell, but it enables, I'm reading, our bodies to grow through our difficulties, develop nuanced skills, and mend our trauma. In this process, the body metabolizes clean pain. The body can then settle. More room for growth is created in its nervous system, and the self becomes freer and more capable because it now has access to energy that was previously protected, bound, and constricted. Equal impaction. When this happens, people's lives often improve in other ways as well. And then he talks about dirty pain is the pain of avoidance, blame, and denial. When people respond from their most wounded parts, become cruel or violent or physically or emotionally run away, they experience dirty pain. They also create more of it for themselves and others. That's the key thing, is that dirty pain reproduces itself. Right. And then not only does it reproduce itself in you, but it reproduces itself for other people around you, you know. So when people say, well, why haven't things changed? Well, how haven't this is one of, you know, it provides a lens. They have different sort of lenses and approaches to understanding the issue, but they all speak this, ultimately speaking to the same, the refusal, you know, to to engage in what they look at pain. But again, teaching people to understand that, Charlie, you're in pain already. Your default is pain. It's a pain you've gotten used to, and it's a pain that works for you, but it's serving you in these ways. But honey, it is reproducing itself and it's causing harm. That's how we get here. The so-called richest country, but also the country that is most in debt. That's how you get to like the worst inequitable scores of inequity and injustice in the world, and outcomes that are not aligned to the sort of wealth status of the country, in health and in happiness and quality of life. It's the refusal to engage, to learn, and therefore engage in the work that does call upon clean pain, but the benefits that come from that. So yeah, and to your point, they're gonna have to be ready for that to attend your boot camp, Dr. Isa.
I mean,
they're gonna have taken some lactulose and some Colace and some Miralax before they come on over to your boot camp.
But no, I really appreciate that, because I mean there's lots of different words I could say, but the way that people operate within institutions is mostly around dirty pain. I mean, I've really been trying to think through, like, beyond the individual, like institutions and how they betray us and how to describe it, and they are very much invested in the dirty pain, protecting themselves from feeling any kind of clean pain that would lead to some kind of change. And then when they do commit to that, they're causing so much pain for other people, and then they deny it even when it's right in front of them. I mean, oh God, this is one of the moments where I really do want to scream at people. I'm not going to.
Go ahead and scream. This is a space. No. That's why we create these spaces, right? So we can do what we can't do in those other spaces.
I mean, in real life, these are the moments where I want to scream at people when they are so invested in an acknowledgement of their own pain that they don't see the pain that they're inflicting on others, because that would be painful. Like, to recognize their participation in that institutional betrayal is so painful that they deny your pain. They don't see how they're traumatizing you, and they just continue to like rationalize it away, and then sit in their own pain. Like, I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed. I tried my best. Like, I can't say that because that's not effective communication, but I really want to be like, who gives a fuck? Sorry, baby. Because this person or this group of people has been sitting in pain for a very long time. They already had their bowel disimpacted, right? They did that part. And then now we're just waiting on you. And while they're waiting on you, you continue to harm them. Like, those are the people I just want to scream at. But I really like this. I'm gonna steal this, read the chapter and steal it as a way of describing and connecting it to the poop story, like what we're talking about. Because that constipation is dirty pain, and then the clean pain comes from the disinfection.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we need to, like I said, I know we've been threatening to do this for like a year, but I really need us to like take a weekend, Dr. Isom, you and I sit down and just write, because these are all of these ideas that like together, it's just be our retreat. Like this weekend, we'll pick a weekend, we'll take like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever makes sense. And we'll just be together on Zoom and we'll just write, because these are really great ideas. And I think that this is, people are seeking with all of us. And again, I'm leaving white world now, coming home, which is Black people. But, a lot of us still need help in conceptualizing and languaging these realities. I mean, I see it all the time. Many of us repeat white supremacist rhetoric because we haven't been taught, they haven't been taught otherwise. They repeat white supremacist narratives. They believe it for themselves and then they repeat it to others, or just again, like superficial analysis. And we really need to, we have such incredible, and I guess that's again maybe why, again, which furthers my disinterest in white personhood, because I see so much also need in our community. Like we also need this. I can't tell you right now, I'm thinking of so many people where we talk about frustration. I told you about my mentor, who, again, the language of, wait, what name, just name it. Like, I don't even care if you don't have an analysis yet, or a way forward, or the solution, or a solution, but name it. Just let's name it. We don't have people that are able to do that. And it's a global phenomenon. Yeah, I was in a meeting on Friday, and this sister was telling me about a thing she was doing with a group of people. One of them is Ghanaian, from Ghana. And the person took offense because someone was like, as a Black man, how is your blah, 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 your experience, in America so far? And he was like, I'm not Black. And I'm like, what you mean? He's like, I'm not Black. And then she asked him, please explain. She's like, I'm not Black because I have a job, I have house, I have car.
Yeah. Right? I thought you were going to say something else.
So it was fascinating to me. I know your reaction was my, because I was expecting so many. I mean, we all understand how white supremacy and colonialism, inside of colonialism has been a divide and conquer for the diaspora, and how, the nonsense with, and people understanding Blackness and race and how it moves depending on the geography. We get that. So I was expecting something along those lines, but my man was like, my economic and educational status prevents me from being Black. I thought that was fascinating, because in many parts of the world, identity is fluid. You can move in and out of an identical categorization depending on,
it's historical.
Your something, your accent. Yeah, 100%. Like class is fluid, not as fluid in Europe or in the UK, but in this country, class is fluid, right? You get more income. Your ass isn't low income no more. You're in middle class, you're in upper class. Your income causes you to move, right? Race here is static, but income is fluid. But in some places, race is potentially fluid, and it's so incredibly linked to social status around class and education, which is class as well, that for him, his contextualization of Blackness was so incredibly linked to being at the bottom rung of the class and educational ladder, that he felt he had escaped that categorization by being educated and wealthy. And it was fascinating. Of course, I know his conscious analysis is not that sophisticated, but for me, listening, I just was really fascinated. Of course, this brother is just super brainwashed. But from a sort of sociological standpoint, that is the lens in which I saw it. So I thought that was fascinating. And so what it signified to me yet again, the incredible need within our communities, diaspora and not, right, to learn these things as well. We still also have our own dirty pain that we're dealing with, right? Over and over again. Many of us lack the language, lack the analysis, the analytical tools, the paradigms to even engage in these conversations, talk less of navigate them in real life. There is such incredible need of building community around this for me, that like for me, that's where my passion is, because again, how do we achieve liberation, or the liberation spectrum and space, without those tools? Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if this is going anywhere in particular, except to just voice that.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
I'll see there.
what comes to mind, this is like a, Black Girl Magic, per usual, but there's this paper I came across where this Black, forget her profession, I think she's a social worker. She has this transformative consciousness idea that she's like adapted from others and kind of infused her own thing into it. And she has this transformative consciousness of oppression and privilege scale. And it's like a way to like analyze your, and it's very, it's complicated and simple at the same time. But I was like, that's the kind of thing, and I am not the most advanced person on this scale. I mean, looking at it and how she situates it in like a clinical context, like we're not trained, and this is me, psychiatry, we're not trained to be analyzing oppression or privilege in the moment clinically. And this is where she's living. She's offering this as a framework for clinical interventions. But like that could be the kind of investment that we could be aiming for, is how do we create a transformative consciousness as a collective? And then, what does that look like? So I can send you that paper. Their name is Alexis Jamal. Alexis, and then Jamal, Jemal. But I was like, this is just so beautiful, just so beautifully laid out. And it's just, yeah. I mean, I want to go back and redo my entire training through the lens of this framework, because I would be a different psychiatrist, a different person. But it talks about having an awareness, but also interrogating your behaviors, and then what are the consequences of your behaviors. And a lot of what we're talking about are people who are at various places with their awareness, what they do, and then like what they think about the consequences of what they do or don't do.
Which is an ABC: awareness, behaviors, consequence.
Right. And I'm not going to nerd out on it, but we could talk about it some more offline. But that's what I'd like for myself. I would like to have achieved a transformative consciousness. That's what I'm working on, which is why I'm always open to being wrong, or being ignorant to this, the things I've talked about being a good or achievable idea, because I just don't know. I really don't know. But I'll say for this conversation, I appreciate you, investing in white personhood for the sake of our dialogue. Because,
only for you, sister. Only for you.
It is a battle, but yeah, I think I am hopeful for 2022 overall. I think for a lot of different reasons, a lot of change will be coming in my life. My lots of things will change, which we can offline, but I really would like to think about, as far as the deliverables we talked about. Are we going to do a podcast or not? And then, can we do this writing weekend and make it all about fecal matter or anything else that comes to mind? Fecal matter is poop, y'all. Anything that comes to mind that explains like this stuff that people are so scared to talk about would be really cool. And then also boot camp for who?
Yeah.
Boot camp for us, and then boot camp for people who have pre-boiled. Because I have ideas for multiple boot camps, but for us it would be like, how do we walk in, I don't want to use like a military analogy, but how do we walk in fully prepared to not take any names, right? And to be completely like strongly sturdy. How do we walk into situations as sturdy as possible? Sturdy is like a therapy sort of term, where I can't be moved. Like, I am here in this space, I know what I'm thinking, I trust what I'm thinking, I know what I'm doing, I trust what I'm doing. And I trust that what I want is the thing that I should want. And because I feel like all we are typically doing is just being pushed around. They're trying to throw us off. So how do we become sturdier than we already are? So we got to think of a cool name for that, though, because it can't be the Sturdy Boot Camp. That just sounds weird, but like
I
something.
don't know though. I don't know. I kind of like that sturdy, sturdy because in my mind I made this of Timberlands, and I know even Timberlands has some challenges racially. There's a whole racial thing with the trees. Anyway, but this says let me say like work person's boots, like construction boots. Maybe that's a better, So in my mind I just saw that like construction boot. Huh, 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 huh. I'm sorry. I'm hungry. That's what's going on. And so, but no, I hear you. As we bring this conversation to a close, sort of looking ahead, I'm with you on that. I really think that, this year has been a way to percolate on a lot of ideas and engage in a lot of work. We've done a lot of work between both of us, so much work in this space. I really think that we have people that are of all backgrounds. Again, primary concern being Black folks, but of all backgrounds um who are primed. And I really think that us really now think, and this is my academic coming out, but not really academic for academic's sake, really academic from a tool equipment standpoint. And so just like, Alexis, Jamal creating a framework of transformative consciousness, what are some of the frameworks that we and tools that we can bring together and disseminate, right, to equip, I think how do we, to your point, for me, the spirit of, pardon me, I think I may have burped there, when you talk about the boot camp, is like how we equip folk, whatever medium that is. So the boot camp will be limited in how many people can participate, obviously, but this is something that folks from all over the world, frankly speaking, would be interested in and engaging in. How do we create those tools, right? How do we leverage them for economic power to address, from an economic standpoint, where we are creating things that are generating income, because that income then gets funneled back into the community and builds wealth, and to address the wealth gap, which is itself its own form of violence, right, in our communities. So for me, I think larger really than this. And so it doesn't have to be super complex or super complicated, because it's all within us. We have all the data, so to speak, from this past few years of doing all the work, and then accelerated in the last couple of years, right, with the Panini and George Floyd and everything else. So I think that this is time for us to think through how we start producing actual tangibles that people can purchase and leverage, because it has incredible value, and it can start to move needles in very meaningful ways. And that's sort of my thought process there, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And I'm with you. I'm with you. And I appreciate the comments in the chat, y'all. Thanks for hanging in with us we said we were going to be here for an hour. I think we did.
Yeah, I just said, yeah. When she said that, I was like, okay, sure.
I actually thought it was
good look.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, to whoever's listening now or whoever's listening in the future, we survived. I think I can say in some ways I've thrived. Hopefully you can too, Dr. Opara, have felt some thriving in 2021, but there's also been lots of harm as well. And it's like walking with all that into 2022, maybe we could flip the ratio a bit, at least within our control, of how much we feel we're thriving. So with that,
I agree. And that's rooted in the decisions that we make every day. We make in all the spaces that we find ourselves in. And right now, even though we're going to have those conversations coming forward, is what does it mean? What does sturdiness mean to you? How do you get your sturdy on, so to speak, right? For me, it is grounding. What you say, Jess?
That's the merchandise.
Okay. That's going. Look, listen. We got a podcast coming. We got papers coming. We got some toolkits to be create, and now we got merch, y'all. You see, Black women, don't play with us. You put two of us together, and we just have already bought a space in the mall, and we're already ready to go.
It's just
Children are going to private school now and everything. Oh my God. I swear to God. But yes, get your study on. How you gonna get your study on in 2022? And for me, it's just every day being grounded in who I am, whose I am, where I come from, and why I'm here. You know, really writing out that purpose statement for you. Like what is my assignment? We talked about assignment. What is mine? You know, what is my assignment beyond being abundant and thriving and full of joy and representing that in every aspect of life while embracing all of my humanity, showing up authentically and unapologetically my Black self. But you know, what is that thing that's your pride and joy? How do you show up with sturdiness? You know, if it's to not engage, that's fine. That's your right. That is part of freedom, you know. And so how do I show up in freedom, in liberation, you know, in and that's the spectrum. It's not a like, oh, I'm liberated. Nah, it's continuous, it's ongoing. But how do I get my study on in 2022? I think that would be something I would love, Jess, I'm sure you would too, to hear from folks like what your plan is on for that. And like I said, it can look any way you want it to. That's the freedom of it. That's the fun of it. You can paint it in whatever color you like. You can scent it with whatever aroma you like. It could be in whatever shape you like. And it's beautiful. And we do that in community, child. Woo. And so, yeah, I would just bring my comments to a close by repeating the quote from the lovely Auntie Bell Hooks. And when she said, I will not have my life narrowed down. I will not bow down to someone else's whim or to someone else's ignorance. It also reminds me of the quote from Margaret Mead. I'm sure, have you heard of that quote, Jessica? Margaret Mead? Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Because now she's a white woman. But I do like this quote.
I was like, where are we going with this? So this is the Wikipedia photo.
Let me tell you. Oh no, this might be your wrong. Oh, there's a Wikipedia. You're like, no. Let's see here. And you know what? This one is also. What did you find? What did you find? You read it. Read what you found.
Recognize. So, you know, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. I mean, I've said that. I've said that, you know, so, and I've used that. I didn't know that was okay. But there's one about children.
Yeah.
Children
Yeah.
Not what to think. That's it. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. I mean, we are teaching children what to think here, and obviously we have the consequences of that in front of our faces. But that speaks to me as like a critical consciousness, like having the ability to critically think, but specifically like critical consciousness that would allow them to see how messed up the world is and then be invested in fixing it, not just like investing in it more. So I like that. I don't know if that's what she's trying to say, but. I might be reading into it, but
that's what we took out of it. Look, listen, yeah, that's right. Like this is the quote I was looking for, and it's by Marianne Williamson. I do mix those two people.
Oh, okay.
Let me see, because I should have no business. Let me just make sure right quick. This is the one. So there's that saying, that quote, and then this quote as well. And why I like that quote, and the reason why there's two white women, so but the reason why I mix up no, I'm sorry, the reason why I like that Margaret Mead quote is because oftentimes I feel people get discouraged by, well, you know, all the people, like, how do we get all these people? And I've always, just like you said, I've always been about like, yo, I just need 3 good people. I just need 4 good people. I just need 5 people. I don't need 100. I don't need 10,000. I don't need 1,000,000, nothing. And part of that too is, I think this is why for Black people, why we do the impossible so many times, is a lot of us, regardless of religion, are grounded in some form of spirituality. And we talked about this before, but we're grounded in some kind of idea of like a larger power, something beyond us that can supersede the need to have 1,000 people, like numbers, right? And so, and I've seen that in my short life. I have seen that in my, you know, and so, we don't need 10 people. We don't need, you know, in this new year, 500 people, 1 million people. We just need 5 committed ride or die, sturdy people, right? Who are about it, who catch the vision and are just about this life. And that's all that is needed to me. And so let me close with my portion of this wonderful time we've spent together with Marianne Williamson. She's another white lady, but she probably got this from a black lady. I'm just kidding. It sounds like what we'll say. All right, girl, what you say? So I can read it out for the people. Oh Lord, I tell you what, when your internet is slow. Okay. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be this brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, the glory of spirit, the glory of the universe. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And so we let our own light shine. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So in this 2022, I want to encourage y'all on the call now or listening in the future, honey, let your light shine, go forward. Even if you're afraid, that's fine. Have courage, meaning do it afraid.
Right.
And just know and trust that something bigger than you will take care of us, as has been taking care of us since the beginning of time. Listen, the fact that we are still here and in the numbers that we are in the world, don't worry about like our 13% in this country. Think about the percent we are in globally. You understand? We are a majority. Okay? We made this shit, all of this here. We made it, we created all of it.
Don't listen.
So let your light shine unapologetically. I understand there is nothing we cannot do. They have to convince us we cannot do it for us to not do it. So reject that mentality. Okay. And as you shine, you give me permission to shine. We give others permission, our sister and our brother next door watching us or listening or whatever, somebody in the corner, whether they are a doctor, they are a teacher, they're a lawyer, they are a professor, they are janitor, they are a executive or administrative assistant, they are the front desk, they are security guard, they are police, whatever their background, we give a brother or sister that sees us permission to also shine in that space that they are occupying. So that's my own for 2022. And the other thing is, please avoid constipation at all costs.
It's true though. We do have to. I mean, we're vulnerable to it as well. Yes.
Eat your fiber, drink your fluid, your water. Okay. And lactulose is your friend. No, it's not. Like don't even get to the point where you need lactulose.
Oh man. Well, on that note, this was good.
That's it. That's it, done. I'm done. I need to eat.
I need to. But yeah, look, it's almost a new year, so I really can't wait. I'm excited, and hopefully next year we come back around this time and we're like, oh my God, we did all the things that we said that we're gonna do. Okay, I speak that into existence. And thanks to y'all in the audience. Thanks to those who are gonna watch us. We'll see y'all next year. I can't say amen, but I'll say mm-hmm. So with that, Dr. Opara. Mm-hmm. I'll see you on the other side. I'm sure we'll talk offline soon. Okay. So take care.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bye-bye.